So after that, you went to Cal State, LA?
I was going to Cal
Oh,
State.
you were going
LA
at Cal State. Okay, so you were in college at the time.
I was going to school and working full time. So I would wake up. So my schedule normally was go to work from 7:30 or 7 to 3:30. Then I usually would go to school and had classes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 5 to 8, and Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 to 10. And so I was doing a full schedule in college. And that's when I discovered comedy, because it was the first time I stayed up past 11. So, I mean, seriously, like, you know, I know other people watch Laugh-In or shows like that. We were watching Vanessa or whatever my mother's, you know, whatever her thing was in Spanish television. And I was lucky to get in Taxi, Happy Days, you know, stuff that they like too, that they would laugh at. But outside of that, I you know, so stand-up was just this foreign thing. And then I saw when Fox became a network and they gave Joan Rivers her show on Fox. Well, that's way back when they actually kind of put tarps over the Hollywood sign and it said Fox for a few days. Like that whole sign was Fox sign. It was cool. I remember watching Louie Anderson perform, and I went to work the next day and I told everybody, like, hey, this comedian Louie Anderson, he was really, really funny. And I told them what jokes were. And that kind of just went on for a little bit. And there was a guy named Joe who worked there. And one day Joe came up to me, and he was that guy that never really smiled, was always in tune, never got, you know, he was just a calm guy that you knew was going to be there forever. First job, last job of his life. And he came up to me and he said, you know, you're very funny. You should do stand-up comedy. And then he just walked away, and I was like, what? What are you talking about? And I think that led me to watching stand-up, and then watching stand-up led me to go seeing live stand-up. And when I saw live stand-up for the first time, I not only fell in love with it, I knew that it was something that I was going to do for the rest of my life. It was my brain, as easy as my brain and physiological being was able to get into the drug dealing thing, I knew that stand-up would be that easy for me, because I had always wanted to be that guy who would say, what are you talking about? This is stupid. But I couldn't, you know, I couldn't. Like I couldn't say all these things because my mom would always catch me right before I was going to say them. Like, you know, whatever my uncle would say something, I'd be like, and my mom would just catch me like, don't, because everything I thought of was, but if you say this and you do that, then how explain this? Like, there was always there. So when I started stand-up, that was the one place my mother could not tell me that. It was the one place where I literally remember going on stage and kind of looking around and going, wow, my mother's not here. She can't tell me. And one of the first jokes, I think it's probably the first joke I ever wrote. It's funny, I could still tell that joke today, 35 years later, with context, but it's still funny. So that shows me that even though my writing skills were remedial, my performances were, I mean, they were what they are of a young person that doesn't know what they're doing. They were all of that, but they all had, I mean, every video I've ever shot, as embarrassing as 90% of them can be at sometimes the further back, the more embarrassing they get, so to speak. But then I say something that I go, oh my God, there I am. Wow, I was there back then? Wow. I surprised myself because I didn't feel myself, but I look back now and see that there were always those little things, those little moments of, I'll give you an example of something that I grew up with that I never said. I would sit around and listen to gangbangers talk about white people, right?
Okay.
White people are keeping us down. White people ain't shit. White people don't like us. They never give us jobs. I mean, just going off. And the whole time in my head, I want to yell out, but if you hate white people, how come you only kill Mexicans? Like, explain that to me. Like, you literally are talking about how much you love Mexicans, And I know you've never killed a white person. I know you've shot at 3 Mexicans and hit 2 of them. And you're claiming 3 with those 3 tears. What? But of course, that never came out of my mouth because they're gangbangers.
Right. Didn't you say that every drive-by you've ever seen, they never hit the intended target?
Well, that's kind of where the sketch that we did, because you see, this is one of those interesting things. I always wanted to do it as a comedy bit, but I couldn't because there was a comedian and he did a joke where he said, I think he said something like, we gotta teach these kids how to do drive-bys because they always hit innocent people or something like that. And I saw him perform that joke. So I never did that joke on stage, really. Not in that way. So what happened was when we did Mencia, I was like, I have to do the sketch. But I also, was dealing with people at the time saying like, man, a lot of your jokes sound like something other I heard or whatever. So we said, can you write this bit for us? And I'll pay you for the writing of the bit. And then once you give me the bit, then we can shoot it and you got paid for it. And I'm not doing it on stage. And this is just a joke for Mencia. Mm-hmm. So it ended up being something that we did on Mencia. But it's Dave Tyree who actually initially for the first time did the joke. But that was a thought that I had, since I was probably 11 or 13, somewhere between 11 and 13.